Welcome to this explainer. I am so thrilled you're here today because we are embarking on a truly fascinating philosophical journey. We're going to cross centuries, cultures, and continents, all to decode one of the most mind-bending mysteries of human existence. You know, we often think about reinventing ourselves, right? But what if we're not just talking about a surface-level change, but a total fundamental transformation of who you actually are? Today, we are exploring the ancient and honestly quite radical concept of voluntary death and spiritual rebirth. Okay, let's dive right into this. Die before you die. Wow. It's an incredibly famous Islamic hadith. But let's be real, at first glance, it sounds like a complete paradox, doesn't it? Like, how can you possibly die before your life actually ends? Well, what we are about to uncover is that this isn't about physical mortality at all. Actually, it's a profound, beautifully layered metaphor for spiritual transformation. It's essentially a massive invitation to radically change. Section 1. The mystery of death before death. And that brings us to Section 2, the 3 kinds of human death. To help us untangle this incredible puzzle, we're looking to our first guide, the great mystic and poet Sheikh Mahmud Shabestari. He didn't just write gorgeous poetry, he actually built this brilliant, highly structured framework for understanding existence itself. He argued that, well, we don't just die once. First, there's a death that happens every moment. Think of it like this. All of creation is constantly passing away and being instantly recreated, literally second by second. Then, if we skip down to the third one, there's inevitable death. That's the physical passing of the body, the ultimate end that humans, animals, and, yep, even plants all share. But the crucial point is right there in the middle. Voluntary death. This is an exclusive, everyday struggle. It is completely 100% unique to us as humans. So, let's unpack what voluntary death actually means in practice. Basically, it is the intentional detachment from the sensory world and our carnal desires. What Shabestari is really getting at is erasing our everyday human vices. You know exactly the ones I mean, the stuff that drags us down daily, like greed, envy, anger, unchecked ambition. Voluntary death is the active and, let's be honest, incredibly difficult choice to let go of those toxic, lower-level instincts. You aren't losing your physical life here. You are actively choosing to let your darkest flaws perish. By willingly killing the ego, your core identity actually transforms. You're basically emptying yourself of those human vices, the jealousy, the rage, so that you can be filled with something so much higher. In this tradition, when you die to your selfish desires, you are reborn into divine attributes. Your human flaws get replaced by spiritual perfection. It's kind of like the ultimate upgrade for your soul. Section 3. Rebirth in Christianity. Okay, here is where we hit a massive aha moment for this explainer. You might be sitting there thinking this deeply structured concept of dying to the self is something entirely unique to Islamic mysticism. But check this out. On one side, we have Sufism's concept of killing the ego, right? And on another side, we have Christianity's concept of the second birth. Structurally, philosophically, they are achieving the exact same thing. Both of these traditions are telling us that the first, biological life we're handed, well, it simply isn't enough to reach ultimate spiritual fulfillment. We literally have to undergo a secondary intentional transformation. Which brings us to a very famous statement from Jesus Christ. He said, "None shall enter the kingdom of heaven unless born twice." When we look at that quote through the lens of our explainer today, the meaning becomes incredibly, brilliantly clear. This second birth that Jesus is talking about, it is functionally identical to the voluntary death of the mystics. To be born twice, the old version of you, the one completely driven by ego and earthly attachments, has to fade away. So, seeing this profound parallel between two major world religions naturally leads us to a really big question. Is this concept of spiritual rebirth strictly limited to these structured major religious doctrines? Like, did humanity really only start thinking about dying to the ego in the last couple of millennia? Let's take a massive leap backward in time to find out. Section 4. The Ascent and Ecstasy of Shamans. To answer that question, we're going to lean on the brilliant scholar Mircea Eliade. He studied the primal raw roots of human spirituality in ancient shamanic traditions. And guess what? Long before massive organized religions even existed, early humans were grappling with the exact same desire for transcendence, and they followed the exact same blueprint. Step 1. The shaman practices asceticism and avoids vices. Just like the Islamic mystics, they have to purify themselves. That is their voluntary death. Step 2, entering a state of ecstasy. By intentionally separating from their normal senses, they transcend everyday human limits. And finally, step 3, achieving a connection with the divine. They died at their ordinary state, and boom, they are reborn into a higher, spiritually elevated existence.
And here is a super fascinating historical detail about how they visualized all this. Shamans actually symbolized their rebirth by wearing animal skins. But why? Well, in ancient times, way before scientific and intellectual achievements were the main measure of success, physical superiority was hugely revered. Animals were seen as physically superior, sometimes even divine in their raw power. So by wearing their skins and mimicking their sounds, the shaman was symbolically showing their community that they had transcended normal human weakness. They had literally been reborn into something far more powerful.
Section 5, overcoming the dragon of the ego. Okay, so we've traveled from Islamic poetry to the teachings of Jesus all the way back to ancient shamanic rituals. Now let's pull all these historical threads together and turn these lofty ancient concepts into an actionable epic metaphor for you to take away today. Listen to this. Tear the head off the dragon of the ego with the talons of the falcon of will. I mean, isn't that an incredibly visual, powerful way to frame it? The source text is basically telling us that our carnal soul, our vice, is a dragon. It's massive, it's terrifying, and it's destructive. But our willpower, our active choice to undergo that voluntary death, is a swift, striking falcon. You have to actively use your willpower to strike down your own worst tendencies. And the poetic metaphor finishes up with this absolutely beautiful comparison to a chessboard. The journey of the soul, it is grueling. You start out as a humble pawn on the board, but by advancing step by careful step, enduring the really hard trials of leaving your ego behind, you eventually cross the entire board. And when you do, you get promoted. You become a shining piece, achieving ultimate closeness to the divine. You die as a pawn, and you're reborn as a queen. It's a total game changer. Which brings us to the end of our journey today. And I really want to leave you with this provocative thought. What exactly is the dragon of the ego in your own life? Is it pride? Maybe anger? Is it the endless pursuit of material things? And more importantly, what will it take for you to summon the falcon of your will, embrace that voluntary death, and experience your own spiritual rebirth? Definitely something to think about. Thank you so much for exploring this incredible topic with me today, and keep asking those big questions.